All right, welcome to the MNP podcast,
I'm in.
and I'm P. And today we are really excited because we've now seen this movie two times to finally give our review of Black Panther.
Yeah, review reaction.
Review, reaction,
I mean,
Black.
I'm still digesting what I saw,
Oh my gosh, so
even though it's the
good.
second time I've seen it. So I think for me, it's going to be more of a reaction. Review might take a while for me to digest and
Yeah, so many
really.
levels to it. But so we should say from this point on, if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want surprises, spoiler alert, because we're not going to do this thing where we dance around what the movie is and try to, like, not talk about it. In this podcast, we're going to talk about the movie. So you've been warned. Spoiler alert. We're going to spoil the movie. If you haven't seen it, go do your homework, watch it, and then, listen to this podcast or just listen to us
I
go through
mean,
it.
one disclaimer I'll
And
give: the spoilers aren't even that serious. You could take the spoilers and still enjoy the movie.
for sure. I mean, we saw
Um,
it twice, and like the second time was just as good as, if not better, than the first time. And I mean, it is a superhero movie, so there are certain uh, there's a certain formula that all superhero movies have, which you can. Oh, is that you drinking a pop? There's certain. I was saying There's a certain formula that action movies have, that you kind of know where certain things are going to go. But that being said, we are going to talk about the movie in detail. So if you are into that, that's cool. If you're not, spoiler alert. And here we go. So I think my big question to you is, how did you feel once once the movie was over and you had watched it for the first time? How did you feel?
so I'm gonna take it just back to the beginning. I really enjoyed um, the build up to this movie. And I remember going back like about 2 years ago when rumbling started about this movie. Um, I didn't know much about the character. I don't know if you had heard anything about the Black Panther before.
I didn't know a thing about Black Panther.
So I was kind of in the same boat. And then once everything started to pick up steam with
Yeah.
Lupita getting recruited, Chadwick getting recruited, all the actors
Michael
that
B.
we kind of
Jordan.
saw,
Yeah.
you know, I was really excited for it, but when a movie gets this hyped,
Mm-hmm.
the next step can be, will it live up to the hype? Is it going to be as good as the hype
Mm-hmm.
that people have for it? Because people have all these hopes for it. People have these actors they like, and they wanted the movie to be big.
Mm-hmm.
And especially once people got so excited, it felt like the movie was actually bigger than just a movie. It was an event.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
People wanted to like really put their hopes for Black Hollywood into this movie. And I have to say, when the movie, so again, spoiler alert, but the movie has several quote unquote endings. It's got a main ending, and then they run credits.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's got sort of like an add-on ending, and then they run more credits. And then it has the typical Marvel like
Like,
sneak preview for the next thing they're gonna put out.
yeah.
So when I got to the end of the first end of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
I was just sitting back like, whoa, this movie lived up to the hype and then some.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
Direction, acting, story, the arc, the characters, the issues that it's dealing with.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about this movie was A1.
Yeah. It was.
So I'll throw that question back to you. How did you feel when you got out of the not when you
Well,
got out of the theater, but when the movie ended?
Well, when the movie ended, because you talk about when I got out, like I couldn't even move, like couldn't even get out, like I was paralyzed by just how I was so blown away. I couldn't move but just how good the movie was. And it was just on like so many different levels. Like there was a high expectation for the film, obviously, and the trailers were so good at hyping people up. But to be honest, like, I'm not an action hero, action film type person. I
Right.
really could care less. I just go see them because, you know, sometimes it's just something to do. But for this, it was like, I wouldn't expect that a superhero movie would touch on so many issues and in such a clever way. And so when the movie ended, I was just so blown away that like the movie went there on so many levels. And
Well,
I
you
didn't want it to end because it was like more than a 2 hour movie. And I was like, can I just please have a little morsel, more anything? Just give me more, you know?
well, you kind of touched on something that we had kind of talked a little bit about, but the movie touches so many different elements and
Mm-hmm.
genres.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say off the top of my head, I noticed there's a bit of spy movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely action and superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
There was a bit of art house with the use of colors and mysticism in the ancestral plane.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you
Yeah,
want
I mean,
to.
like international film where they weren't shy about
Yes,
having like multiple different languages and, um, like, yes, the film was predominantly in English, but they really kept authentic to like when people would speak in like an African language or when people would speak. There was like Korean in the film as well.
yep,
So there was like international film internationalness to it. Um, there was a bit of romance,
yes,
a bit of, well, not even a bit. There was comedy in
yeah. There's a
it.
lot of comedy, a
Yeah,
lot of comedic moments.
yeah. So, and there was like also, I don't know what this genre is, but like not action, but what's it called? Like
Martial arts.
martial arts. Yeah, you saw my hand motions, and you were able to figure that out. But I guess it would be great. We've like talked for a while now about like the film and how we felt, but maybe we should lay out what the film is about so that we can talk about the different moments. Um,
Yeah, we're getting like all
yeah,
ahead of ourselves.
I
Like this is the
know.
best movie ever,
And
and
people are like, what
we're
do
not
you?
even touching
Yeah,
what
I
it's
mean, if
about.
you haven't seen it, like, I'm sure people listening to it know what it's about, but for the sake of it, let's set the stage.
I mean, like Cole's notes. Um, Cole's notes is that the movie. So Black Panther is a character who's already been introduced in the Marvel Comics universe. So if you don't have a clue who Black Panther is, you probably haven't been watching that closely. But when you get to this movie, he's an already made character.
Mm-hmm.
Starts off as the Prince of Wakanda and head of security for his dad, T'Chaka, who is King of Wakanda,
Mm-hmm.
up until pretty recently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Essentially, the movie goes through his ascension to becoming king,
Mm-hmm.
some of the challenges he has while being king, and we'll get into those spoilers about what happens. But essentially, a cousin of his
Mm-hmm.
from the US,
Mm-hmm.
born to his uncle, who is Wakandan,
Mm-hmm.
comes back to Wakanda to essentially reclaim the throne and wreak havoc in Wakanda.
That's what happens. Yeah, that's the premise.
And on the way to getting to the end of the story, we have international intrigue.
Mm-hmm.
We have trips to South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
We've got multiple languages. We've got the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the UN.
Yeah.
We've got domestic policy. We've got foreign policy. We've got, we're dealing with issues of refugees. I mean, it's all in there.
Yeah. No, it really is. So here's a question: like, what was the thing that stood out the most to you about Black Panther that really had you blown away?
I mean, I think the the thing that stood out to me the most as
Mm-hmm.
a superhero movie
Mm-hmm.
is the way the movie seemed really willing to delve into some deep topics,
Mm-hmm.
and topics that I find superhero movies aren't often able to deal with very well. I think they try to reference them a lot of the time, but the way the movie really dug in and wasn't afraid. So, for example, Killmonger. I think everybody who likes the movie
Mm-hmm.
like has been blown away by Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger performance because
Mm-hmm.
it's just at a really high level.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing that makes it so powerful is that at a certain point you're looking at Killmonger and you're saying, I kind of see where he's coming
Kind
from.
of right though.
He's had a hard life.
Yeah.
He grew up in a part of the US at a time when things were very volatile,
Yeah.
and it shaped his worldview. And then he's gone and been involved in these wars and killed all kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see how that's really shaped him.
So, like, just to be clear, for Killmonger, he is half Wakandan and half American. He gets left behind, and his father gets killed, and so he grows up in, in America, seeing how black people are treated, and seeing how really like black people around the world, like the different struggles we go through, and he's basically radicalized and decides that the way to alleviate that is for like us or black people to rise up and Wakandans to take their resources and rise up and like conquer the world basically. And so he's more about the violence and being radicalized. And at a certain point, like you said, you're kind of like, I mean, all of these years, Wakanda was in existence, knowing that people were struggling and like not doing anything. And so you're kind of like, I mean, Killmonger's kind of right though, right? So you do sympathize with his motivations, and you're just like, okay, he's not wrong. Um, he is on one for sure, but he's not wrong. And I think that like T'Challa's character, because they're cousins, Black Panther also knows that he's not wrong. Like he does know that he does realize that Wakanda turned their back on suffering people, and so I think that's what makes the movie so good is that it's not just like good guy, bad guy, and the good guy is right and the bad guy is wrong. It's that there's those nuances where, like, the bad guy actually has a point, and the good people kind of have been, like, slacking.
Yeah, and just to add to that, one of the things that I took away from the movie is T'Challa needed Killmonger.
Mm-hmm.
Killmonger forces T'Challa to grow, forces him to look at things a bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, what the way that the movie is resolved is that T'Challa finds a way to kind of reconcile what his worldview was at the beginning of the movie
Mm-hmm.
with what Killmonger was bringing to the table when he took over Wakanda. And so it's interesting to see a movie where the hero actually adopts some of the ethos from the villain.
Yeah.
Uh,
And what I find that was for me what really stuck out to me about Black Panther is that the movie is that like it touched like overall the film showed the diversity of black people in like the different tribes, the way we speak, the way we dress, our struggles, um, our motivations. Like it just showed a wide breadth of people, of black people, and different issues that affect them. Where you have Killmonger coming in from an American perspective, where there's that issue, but then there's also Wakanda has been turning its back on um, the poverty around them, and like in Africa, so in different countries in Africa. So there's that struggle, and I find usually in American films when they're talking about Black issues, it's always like one note, one dimensional. We don't see that there's like so many different aspects to us kind of thing. And there are a lot of things that we deal with. And so overall, the movie was about like Pan Africanism, I found, and it did a really good job at touching on different points. So that's what stood out to me.
So what we're gonna do now is go flip it over to part two, and then we'll talk about some of the other aspects of the movie.
In depth.
But if you like this video, hit like and subscribe.